Hey everyone, and welcome. To all the CSS aspirants joining us, we've put together a really comprehensive explainer today. We're tackling a massive foundational pillar of your business administration syllabus. Topic 4, decision making. Now, I want you to think of this session as your ultimate manager's toolkit. We're going to break down the exact mental models and frameworks you'll absolutely need, and not just to ace your exams, right, but to genuinely excel when you're out there as future public administrators. So let's jump right in. Okay, here's our roadmap. We're hitting 6 main sections: core definition and process, 4 ways managers decide, types of problems and decisions, decision-making conditions, thinking styles, and finally, effective decisions today. This exact structure, it's literally the toolkit you'll be using daily in your administrative roles. Let's unpack these together so you can really see the real-world application of every single concept. All right, section 1, core definition and process. Let's strip it down to the absolute basics and define what a decision actually is before we look at how it plays out in the field. So, what is a decision? It's simply a choice made from 2 or more alternatives. Notice the word alternatives there. It's crucial. If you only have one possible path forward, well, you aren't actually making a decision, are you? Picture a school principal trying to boost attendance. If they have to pick between, say, giving out attendance rewards, calling parents regularly, or hiring counselors, boom, that's a decision. No alternatives, no choice. Now, the decision-making process itself breaks down into 8 distinct steps. The first 4 start with identifying a problem. Imagine a supermarket manager staring at a totally frustrating 18-minute wait time at the checkout lanes. Next, you identify your decision criteria. Like, what actually matters most here? Maybe it's balancing customer happiness against the budget. Then, you allocate weights to those criteria. Like right now, speed is definitely weighted higher than cost. Finally, you develop alternatives. You brainstorm, hire more cashiers, put in self-checkouts. You don't judge the ideas yet, you just list them. Moving to the back half of the process, steps 5 through 8. Our manager has to analyze those alternatives, really weigh the pros and cons, and then select the best one. Let's say they pick self-checkout machines. But here's the thing, a decision is completely useless without implementation. You actually have to buy the machines and train your staff. Finally, you evaluate effectiveness. Did it work? If the wait time plummets from 18 minutes down to just 4 minutes, you nailed it. If it didn't, you're looping right back to step 1. Just look at Starbucks as a prime example. During those insanely busy morning rushes, their management didn't just cross their fingers and guess. They identified the bottleneck and systematically invested in mobile ordering and digital payment systems. The result, as you can see, shorter waiting times, way better customer experience, and higher sales. It brilliantly illustrates how global giants perfectly execute this 8-step process in the real world. All right, moving on to section 2, 4 ways managers decide. Let's peek under the hood and look at the actual mental engines driving these choices. Pure rationality sounds great on paper, right? Perfectly logical, entirely objective, having all the information. But let's be real, managers almost never have perfect data. So the crucial reality is that they rely on what we call bounded rationality. They satisfice. Basically, they pick a solution that's good enough given the ticking clock. Think back to governments scrambling for medical gear during the early days of COVID-19. They couldn't spend months reviewing every global supplier. They had to buy acceptable equipment, and they had to do it fast. You'll also see managers leaning heavily into intuition, trusting their gut, their accumulated experience, their subconscious. It's exactly how Steve Jobs operated when he was dreaming up game-changing products at Apple. On the flip side, you have evidence-based management, hard data, analytics, scientific research. Google is famous for this. They don't guess what makes their employees happy. They use rigorous data to shape their HR policies. Honestly, both of these engines are absolute must-haves in your toolkit. That brings us to section 3, types of problems and decisions. The environment you find yourself in totally dictates the kind of problem you're going to face as a manager. Throughout your career, you'll encounter structured problems needing programmed decisions. These are routine. Processing a standard customer refund, you just follow the established rules. Easy. But then you'll get hit with unstructured problems requiring non-programmed decisions. Think about Netflix. When they decided to ditch mailing out DVDs to build an entirely new global streaming empire, there was no rulebook for that. That required a highly unusual, complex, and totally non-programmed decision. Moving right along to section 4, decision-making conditions. Let's talk about predictability and control, or sometimes the lack of it. As an administrator, you have to diagnose your situation fast. Are you operating in a state of certainty where results are as predictable as a fixed-term bank deposit? Are you dealing with risk where you can at least estimate the probabilities? Or are you flying blind in total uncertainty, where outcomes are a complete mystery, like launching a brand new, never-before-seen AI product into the wild? This chart perfectly visualizes that risk condition. Say an airline wants to open a new route. They don't know exactly who's going to buy a ticket, but using past data, they might estimate a 60% chance of high demand, 30% for moderate, and just a 10% chance it flops. Because they can estimate these odds, they understand the risks. They aren't totally in the dark. They can make a calculated, informed choice.
Section 5. Thinking Styles. Now we're shifting from the outside environment to the inside of a manager's brain to see how they actually process all this information.
Think about the difference between an accountant and a tech entrepreneur. The accountant usually leans into linear thinking, highly logical, sequential, totally data-driven to make sure financial standards are met exactly. The entrepreneur? They're often all about nonlinear thinking. It's intuitive, it's holistic, it's about spotting weird patterns across entirely different industries to invent new business models. Figuring out your own natural style is going to make you a vastly sharper decision maker.
And finally, Section 6, Effective Decisions Today. Let's tie the whole shebang together into some modern best practices for your exams and your future careers.
If you want to succeed today, you need 4 key operational pillars. Understand the culture, know when to quit, use an effective process, and build a resilient organization. Adapting the local customs, like a multinational company completely shifting its style when expanding into Japan, is non-negotiable. And using that systematic 8-step process we covered, that ensures accountability and success, whether you're rolling out a university portal or running a massive government department. But listen, you have to watch out for the escalation of commitment. This is a dangerous trap. It's when you keep pouring money and time into an unsuccessful project just because you've already invested heavily in it. Knowing when to cut your losses is a superpower. If early data shows your initiative is tanking, you've got to have the courage to pull the plug. Throwing good resources after bad is just terrible management. You also have to cultivate resilience. It's the ability to rapidly adapt to massive change. We saw this globally when institutions shifted to online learning overnight during the pandemic. Building that digital infrastructure and training your team ahead of time, that's not just a nice bonus. It is quite literally organizational survival. Resilient organizations don't snap when shocked. They pivot immediately. So, I want to leave you all with a thought to chew on. As a future administrator stepping into complex, high-stakes roles, which of these decision-making tools is going to be your absolute greatest asset when you face the unknown? Will you lean heavily on evidence-based management? Are you going to be the master of calculated risks? Or will your strength be in rigorously following the 8-step process? Mastering this toolkit right now ensures you'll be ready for literally whatever comes your way in your